Hello and welcome to this short introduction to the latest innovation from Clear Skye with the 4.4 release that's currently on the ServiceNow store for trial request or installation. Today we'll be looking at the new MS Graph connector. My name is Paul Walker, I'm the VP of Product here at Clear Skye, and it's my absolute pleasure to present this short overview of the latest and greatest in connectivity innovation for Clear Skye IGA. Let's go and have a look at IGA. Here is the default landing page for Clear Skye IGA. Let's open up the list of environments. An environment is a record that represents an instance of a connector type. Here is the MS Graph environment I previously configured. Let's open this up. The IGA administrator can configure the environment capabilities, functionality including password management, import, as well as outbound provisioning from this page. As many of you know, one of the first things to do when setting up a new connector is the service account. In this case with MS Graph, it's an OAuth connection. One of the great things for being on the ServiceNow platform is the ability to leverage the functionality that's provided out of the box by ServiceNow. In this case, the connection and credential alias. This allows us to have confidence that the OAuth token is successfully being retrieved prior to configuring the IGA functionality. This is a great time-saving tip and one of the benefits of being on the platform. The next step I do is go to import configurations and find the test connection. The test connection provides rich information about the target system and gives us confidence the connector is working correctly. If we open up this record and let's import to see the results. The automation engine is currently querying Azure MS Graph API to retrieve information about the target tenant. Let's give this a few seconds and see what we get back. We have a HTTP response. Let's have a look at the information returned. This is really useful information. We can see not only the organizational information for the tenant, but also the Azure tenant information like the size of the directory and the number of guest and member users already existing, as well as the number of groups, the provision plans, and the assigned license plans. This test was successful. Returning to the environment record, let's have a look at the other import capabilities that are used to populate the identity warehouse that represents this target MS Graph tenant. Those of you who are familiar with our Azure MS Graph will recognize some of these terms like user, administrative unit, applications and directory roles and directory role templates, as well as groups, service principals, and license queues. This allows us to model the target system within the identity warehouse for access reviews, access requests, and birthright provisioning, as well as role management. Once these import capabilities have run, you will see the results within the Accounts and Entitlements tabs on the environment and elsewhere within the product. Here is the list of accounts that have been retrieved. Likewise, a list of entitlements. An overview of the different types of entitlements can be seen on the Entitlements Configurations tab. These are all provided out of the box and are configurable based upon classification rules. But how does this look like to an end user requesting access? Let's jump over to the service portal and request access for a new guest account. Here is the standard ServiceNow portal. Let's enter Azure. Here is the tile we found for the Azure invitation. Let's open this up. This is an out-of-the-box form that can be easily tailored to meet your style and functionality needs in your Service Catalog portal. Let's find the Ironman profile. This is an identity I earlier onboarded. And let's select the SkitLabs Azure MS Graph environment and let's request to be a guest. Let's specify a personal email and you can see here's the invitation message that template that will be used to form the email that is sent to the guest. Let's hit submit. And we have a record created. If there are any approvals in place as per organizational policy, this is where they will come into play. I configured this system to be auto-approved. As you can see, this request has been completed and closed. Let's jump over to the Azure admin portal and take a look at the guest account. And here's the guest account that was created. And if we go over to our inbox, we can see here the email that's received by the requester, the guest, to actually join the tenant. Let's accept the invitation. Let's accept the permission request made by Azure. Okay, we're all done. That concludes a successful test from the ServiceNow standard portal requesting a new guest account in Azure Tenant. Returning to ServiceNow, we can see the utility capabilities that exist for Azure MS Graph. These are the outbound provisioning capabilities. This account invitation is what we just used, and you can see we have other capabilities like account create, user create, delete, disable, enable, update, as you'd expect from any mature IGA solution. In addition, entitlements can be created and managed from within ServiceNow with Clear Skye. Administrative units, different types of groups, and directory role assignments within Azure. They all exist out of the box. Another useful thing to know with the Azure MS Graph connector is the ability for Delta import. Initially, and quite often weekly or daily, a full import will be performed from Azure into the identity warehouse as per the customer's needs. Additionally, what's called a Delta import can also be performed. We go ahead and open up the import configuration for account user import. We can see here the Retrieve Delta checkbox is enabled. The connector uses Microsoft best practices to retrieve the delta, the change in records between 2 points in time. This allows for performance improvements and flexibility when importing changes into the identity warehouse. The Retrieve Delta capability exists for not only users, but also entitlements. Back on the Environment Attributes tab, you can see information relating to the actual operations of the connector, including the password configuration for creating new users, as well as the Delta tokens, the different types of objects that support Delta import, whether it's groups, directory roles, service principals, users, and so forth. Down on the Account Configurations tab, there are two out-of-the-box configurations for members and for guests, and these can be cloned or configured as per your customer requirements. These are used for provisioning, for end-user request and birthright access, and RBAC role assignments. Back on the Automation tab, we see the record that was created earlier for the account create for the guest request we performed. Let's open this up. We see the request is completed. We see the environment was Azure MS Graph. It was a utility operation, and we see the response data come back. This was creating the guest account in Azure. It was an invitation. It completed successfully. That concludes our short overview of Azure MS Graph today. Stay tuned for more innovation and exciting news from Clear Skye. Thanks for listening.